I have never felt more aligned with the type of woman that I am becoming and I have worked so hard for. I want all women to feel this. This is an embodiment of the truest, highest form of loving thyself. This is like falling in love with yourself in a way you never have before, because you will not negotiate things in your life. You've raised your standards. Today's episode is more of you like, where can I start getting more in alignment with my higher standard self? I always talk about what a wealthy seven-figure woman, multiple seven-figure woman would do. And yes, we assume that she just lives on a different standard, right? But what if you had that standard right now? Would she accept certain things? Would she negotiate her time? Would she allow certain people to affect her? Would she be saying no more? Where are you saying yes to things you want to say no to? Welcome to another episode of The Quantum Woman. I'm your host, Shamina Taylor. Today's episode, we're going to talk about what it means to have like boundaries, saying no, and putting yourself first. It's having the highest standards. Most of us, high achieving women, powerful women, we would say we had high standards. I mean, you'd probably say yes, right? You agree. And many of us wouldn't accept the food that was brought to the table. We would speak up and return it, most of us. And we wouldn't accept subpar service. We would say, hey, this is not good. We're looking for some compensation, or, do it again. But sometimes in our lives, we negotiate our standards. We negotiate our boundaries. We negotiate when we need to say no. I know personally myself, it's been a lesson of checking in with myself and like, hey, are you really being true to who you are? Like, are you okay with this? And I do have a, how do you say it? Like a core belief that I don't like doing anything I don't want to do. Right. I don't like being guilted into anything anymore. If I don't want to go to something, I say no. But if I've committed to something, I'm going to go like 100%. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it just because it's my word. Because sometimes, if I commit to things in prior and the day comes up, I might not feel like going, but I said I would. So I always make sure I hold my word, because that shows up in so many different places. Stay tuned for the next episode and I will talk about that more. But as far as standards go, I feel like the way people treat us and the way we want to be treated starts from within, right? You've heard this before. So, I can't remember how the saying goes, but you teach people how to treat you. And, being on this journey for the last 10 years of doing spiritual awakening, self-development, I've gotten really raw and vulnerable, and I've really opened up my heart, and I've shared a lot of behind the scenes, of how I've grown. There was a time in my life, I guess in very years ago, where young me would be like, nope, that's not happening. There's no way I'm not doing that. But then my trauma would be like having me do things that I absolutely would never do. And it wasn't the grown woman in me that was making the decisions, it was the trauma that was leading the events. And I didn't know what fawning was until I realized that, oh, hey, that's something I might be doing over here. Hi, that's me. I didn't realize sometimes I might have been dimming my voice in certain relationships because I didn't want to upset people. I didn't realize that sometimes I might not have been speaking up because if I did, I would worry if that person would leave. And what if I did say what I was really feeling? Would they then turn on me? And then how can I deal with that? So I started, even though I'm very unfiltered and unapologetic about a lot of things, there were still some areas in my life that I was, especially in, relationships with clients, with partners, with friends, I was kind of being more of the peacekeeper, like always putting my shoes in other people's shoes, like putting myself in other people's shoes and be like, okay, well, they didn't know, and justifying some of the behavior and, making excuses basically was the bottom line. And then on the back end, I was having some sort of like resentment towards myself, not them, because I wasn't being true to me, because I was doing things that weren't allowing me to be in my power, however that looked in that moment. And it took having to have certain relationships for me to up level everywhere. I'll tell you right now, the type of clients that I work with, they're so different from the type of clients I worked with 2 years ago. There are certain clients that I will never work with, that I can help, that I won't work with now. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But, certain romantic relationships, I'm realizing, like, I used to be, very quiet about saying what I wanted because I wouldn't want to trigger the person, or maybe he would leave. And right now, if that happens and I speak up for myself and they leave, well, they weren't meant to be there, because I believe that the man that's supposed to be with me will show up and will be like, hey, you know what? You're my person and I'm going to work with you. And the more that I hold myself to a higher standard, I get better people, better experience, better things. So having a high standard is not being high maintenance, is not being too much, is not being extra, which many people would say. It's about putting yourself first, which is really important when you're trying to create whatever it is in the world. Because if you put other people before yourself, and this is where some of that people pleasing thing used to come in before, and you're worried about hurting other people's feelings, you're really not in your highest frequency in your vibration. You're technically putting their needs before your own. Now, as a single mom, my kids' needs definitely are coming before me in a lot of ways, but I've also learned to have boundaries with them because, there are times where my kids can take advantage of me. And I have said yes too many times where I need to draw a line and be like, nope, this is mom's time. No, mom can't do that. No, you can't. And being a single mom, I want to give them everything. I want to give them all the things because there's a little bit of guilt because there's not two parents. There's also this thing about me as a nurturer. I want to help everybody. So still working on the mom thing, getting a lot better. But as far as clients go, I have a strict rule right now of who I want to work with. Before, I would let certain women in that weren't in a high level of abundance. Could I get them from $2,000 a month to $70,000, $80,000 a month, 90,000? Yes, definitely. And they did, buying their dream home, making a considerable amount of money, getting out of debt, all these things. It's happened so many times. But I also realized this is that those women had this codependency on me. Like it wasn't true power that was coming from them. They were expecting me to tell them what their next move was, what to do next. And it got draining because the moment that I said, hey, you should tap into your own power, it was like, oh, how dare you do this to me? How dare you? How dare you? So yes, I held the boundary, and guess what happened? I'm like, I'm no longer open and available for that. You can't be my messenger. You can't be doing this. And they turned, just like I was afraid they would, subconsciously. But although it hurt and it was happening quite a bit, I got to restart everything from a different frequency, from a different vibration, from a different level, from a place that I could be so proud of, that I could be like, you know what? I am not willing to negotiate my time. I'm not willing to negotiate what's important. This is how I operate. This is the level that I like to work at. I live at an extraordinary level. I live at a higher standards. And guess what? I started attracting the most incredible clients, like even better than I could even imagine, the most aligned clients, women who are already in abundance, women who are making, ridiculous money. Like I can take one of my clients, Kylie, came and worked with me. She's making 100 and something a month. She just had a $400,000 month last month. It's like having people that are open and available for being their own boss and being in their power. That showed me that the more I was in my power, which raised my standards, the more I attracted people in their power, right? Which always works. So the embodiment of power is important, but it starts with raising your standards. And then when it came to like friendships, let's say I had a clean out of certain friends this summer, and not to say that they were bad people. It was just like, listen, my standards gone up. The type of people that I want in my life right now aren't going to sit there complaining about other people, judging other people, complaining about money, being in scarcity, having a victim mentality, you name it. I'm just like, I'm not open and available for that. And as I did that, guess what? Amazing, women that I didn't even know were in my world were here, or women that I was kind of, chatting with, like, just being acquaintances with, stepped up to the forefront and became, much better friends with me. And then when it came to, romantic relationships, I am so not afraid to say what I want. And this is a big, huge win for me. Like, cause I had a history of like attracting narcissists, and that's that's because my blueprint was a narcissistic father. And so I would bend. There was a time where I didn't think I was, feel I was worthy of love. And I was settling. And when you have that unworthiness inside of you, you got to work double, triple, quadruple, you name it, harder than everybody else to have success, because you have this, you know, um, core belief that, well, why me? And and it's really hard to fill something that's like a colander. It's not something that has a bottom. It just keeps going out. And now I get to go back to that feisty, belief system when I was younger. I'm like, yeah, I'm amazing. I'm not settling for anything else. I check so many of those boxes as a mentor. I check so many boxes as a friend. I check so many boxes as a woman who can provide partnership with a man. Why would I ever settle? Now, does that sometimes make, maybe you aren't going to always have somebody in your life. Maybe people are going to walk away. Maybe you're going to remove them, whatever the case is. But guess what? You're going to be fulfilling the most authentic, high self of you. You will not be sitting there saying, you know what? I'm upset. And who you're upset with? Usually yourself, because you're negotiating something. You're upset with yourself because you have decided that you weren't worthy or you weren't valuable. And when you do that, your self-esteem gets, rocked. And so raising our standards is the feminine way. It's being that powerful woman who's in her, pure divine feminine energy, because she doesn't have to settle. She doesn't have to bend the rules. And when you start tapping into that frequency, you start having a knowing and a trusting and a relying. Whatever trauma that you had before starts dissipating, because it has no place, because your power is going to overcome it. Yes, do you get triggered sometimes? Absolutely. But the way you respond and how you react is going to be, where you have your power. Some days we might do better than others. Some days we might get instant when someone has upset us and we've had a trigger, we can step back and say, hey, let me process this and then respond. And some days we might react, and that's okay. The thing is that we're getting better every day and we're learning from our experiences. I have never felt more powerful than I do right now. I have never felt more aligned with the type of woman that I am becoming and I have worked so hard for. I want all women to feel this. This is an embodiment of the truest, highest form of loving thyself. This is like falling in love with yourself in a way you never have before, because you will not negotiate things in your life. You've raised your standards. As a mother, we have different standards for our children, our daughters. We're like, we don't ever want them to get hurt. We don't want them to do this. We don't want this to happen to them. But yet then we would let things happen to us. We wouldn't raise our standards that way. We would negotiate things. We would, do things that we weren't so proud of. We would allow clients in just because they had the money. We would keep friendships around just because we've been friends with them for so long. We keep partners around just because, well, they've been there, instead of demanding more for our lives, and, it's and settling, meaning like keeping wearing those old underwear or that saggy mattress. And I speak for myself. But we're not upgrading things in our lives. And I had this, moment a couple days ago where I looked at my mattress, speaking of mattresses, and I was like, damn, one side is dipped because it's really heavy. You can't flip it. And we used to flip it. I was like, time for mama to upgrade. I literally went on a spending spree. Like UPS and FedEx have been coming to my house the last couple of days. I spent $20,000, new mattress, new bed, all these things that I had not bought for myself. And I've had the money, but I was just not allowing myself to have these things, which is kind of crazy because I let myself have all the Louis Vuittons, but I was negotiating certain things. But now that I'm realizing like I deserve all these things, I get to upgrade them. I get to spend the money and the money always comes to me. I've already made the money back within like literally 22 hours of spending that money. The money came back. So it's interesting because I feel like sometimes women have these non-negotiables, like, and they're very aggressive about them. Like, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to do that. But it comes from a place of scarcity. It comes from a place of victimness. It comes from a place of protection. There's a different frequency to like, oh no, that's just not going to work with me, because you become like someone to fear when you're like, oh, that is just not going to work, because I love myself more than whatever you're doing right now, that I'm going to choose me all the time. So whatever's happening can happen because I am in control of myself. My emotions are what happens over here. And I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay. This is a level of, power and frequency, embodiment of empowerment, embodiment of not like you won't F with me energy, but like, oh yeah, I get to have that. Oh yeah, that I'm deserving of that. I have tapped into something that's just super extraordinary. And it is the most powerful thing I've ever felt. Will I slip? Will there be things that come up? Absolutely. But I do understand now what it is. There was just a couple areas in my life that needed me to evolve through that. And this was one of them. So today's episode is more of you like, where can I start getting more in alignment with my higher standard self? I always talk about what a wealthy seven-figure woman, multiple seven-figure woman would do. And yes, we assume that she just lives on a different standard, right? But what if you had that standard right now? Would she accept certain things? Would she negotiate her time? Would she allow certain people to affect her? Would she be saying no more? Where are you saying yes to things you want to say no to? I'm going to give you an example. I said this in one of um, my wealthy CEO mastermind program. I said, how many times have you guys gone to dinner at someone's house and they've cooked something and they've offered it to you and you know damn well you don't want to eat it. You know it's just not, but you said, sure, I'll take it. And you nibble at it or you try to just eat it even just to be polite. Why? I know you've done it. I've done it before. Why? Why? Because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So what are we doing? We're putting other people before ourselves. Yes, sometimes there's ways of being polite. Yes, there's sometimes ways of being respectful, but it can't come compromising yourself at the same time. You know, um, start checking in with yourself. See where you're like doing that, where you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. When you really want to say no. Yeah, I'll go there. I'll have that. And it's really a no because those no's are really yeses for higher standard self. It's like, no, I'm waiting for something better. No, I'm waiting to eat this. No, I want my calories to be spent on this. No, I'm waiting for him, that divine hunky masculine man who is going to chase me, who's going to come for me, who's going to do whatever it takes to have me. I'm not going to settle for subpar man who negotiates things. I'm here waiting for the relationships, for friendships of people who adore me. I adore them, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be in their life. They're willing to do whatever it takes to be in my life. They respect me. They also are searching for the thing that I have and they want, and I want what they have. And they're willing to give it to me. All these things. So start checking in. Do a little inventory. And then also, if you need to change your underwear and upgrade it or your mattress, get going. Start doing those things because you deserve to have all that life has to offer you. You don't have to make sacrifices. We are no longer suffering. We are no longer in survival mode. We are no longer taking less than. We are no longer doing the things that we think we need to do just because that's what we were supposed to be doing or what we were told to do. We are no longer acting in that energy. Okay. So I want you to feel into that power, feel into this frequency because it's here. Step into your greatest version of yourself. All right. If you thought this was great and you thought somebody could, benefit from this podcast, please share. And hopefully you're subscribed to my station, if not my podcast. If you're not, let me know. If you're not, go ahead and subscribe. Also, If you haven't joined my Quantum Woman Facebook group, go ahead and join. The link is below. And my new book, Unlocking the Quantum Woman, is coming out. Oh my gosh, you guys need to get that book. And hopefully I'll see you in Chicago too. So let's be friends. Let's connect. And thanks for listening in. All right. Bye for now.